Okay, chapter 19 finishes out our verb system. The perfect system uses up the fourth and fifth principal parts. Perfective action, so that's our third action kind. We have seen durative action in principal part number 1. We have seen undefined action in principal parts 2, 3, and 6. And then perfective action, perfective verbal action, as Stevens writes here, in principal parts 4 and 5. So the perfect system introduces a verbal tense that's somewhat familiar and yet unfamiliar to us. The English language knows a perfect, but it has a different nuance in Greek. So we will familiarize ourselves with that here. The perfect active has a first and second active, and the middle passive is just one form. And that is because we actually have a voice suffix here. And then in addition, we will also be introduced to what's called the pluperfect. So first of all, the perfect first active form. Because we are not really dealing with a common past tense form, we do not employ the augment, but we now see for the very first time box number 2, which is what we call reduplication. And so it's specific for action kind, for perfective action. Of course, we have box number 3, tense stem, and we see a different voice suffix, and we're quite familiar with that at this point. We don't have a thematic vowel because our voice suffix has a vowel built in, and of course we have inflection. Now, a couple of things. The perfect active is the fourth principal part, and I think first of all it's a good thing to look at a tense prefix, as we call it, or also known as reduplication, because it duplicates the tense stem, the beginning thereof. So if your tense stem starts with a consonant, then it reduplicates as such. So it takes that consonant, brings it in a double form back to the beginning, and adds an epsilon. So for luo, we get lelu. And this is true in the case of a single consonant. Now, what if that particular consonant employs rough stops? And for that, of course, refer to the table of stops. In that case, it will resort back to a smooth stop. So, because the airflow just doesn't work it. So if you had phileo, then it would not reduplicate as in fe, because the language just doesn't really pick up on that. It's just too rough. But it will pick up on p, filet. You hear that? It's a little easier for the airflow, and so it resorts to that. What if the word starts out with multiple consonants? Do they then doubly bring it up front? No, it does not. It actually just reduplicates by using a simple vowel, in this case an epsilon. So sta ro from I crucify simply reduplicates by bringing an epsilon. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, that looks just like an augment. But in a minute we will be reminded that it has a very distinctive voice suffix there. Okay. So some exceptions here for the stop interactions and liquid interactions. What if you have multiple consonants here, of which at least one is a liquid, and I think it will always be just one, like blepo from IC. It contains a liquid, the lambda here. Well, in that case, it takes the first consonant here, the beta, and it reduplicates just that one. So the difference here is that for sta ro, where you had a double consonant, even including a sibilant, it would just give up and just add a single vowel. If it involves a liquid, it would take the first consonant and reduplicate it like that, as if it was a single consonant, as we had seen, and add an epsilon. If it has complex sibilants, So any sibilant other than a sigma, it will actually then resort also to a simple epsilon reduplication. Okay. Some exceptions here. That would be when you encounter a row. The row simply likes to double up, and you would see a double row and the addition of a single epsilon. Okay, if you're thoroughly confused now, or you're afraid that you're gonna confuse this verb form then with an augment because you see some single vowel reduplications, no worries, because the perfect form here has a particular voice suffix known as the kappa alpha. So notice that is a lot like the sigma alpha for the aorist, except now the sigma is swapped out for a kappa. All right. In addition to that, we will still see lengthening as well because we're outside the first principal part. So here, for example, from akapao, we will see lengthening as part of reduplication, and we see the use of the kappa alpha. All right, and that's a little exceptional form there. We can also see here some vowel variations where you sometimes get that, or an older form of Greek, because you see the word attic being used, the verb akuo from I hear or I listen. It actually likes to reduplicate by means of reduplicating a whole syllable. That's just a leftover of Old Greek, and so you see you get akeko. Remember also that compounds hide not only augments, but they also hide perfect reduplications. So just be aware of that. Now about that suffix, the kappa alpha, remember that it means that it includes already a thematic vowel. And then, of course, getting all these inserts lined up, take mano, for example. You're going to get reduplication, so you get menega. Notice that we get a lengthening here following the nu, because that nu doesn't like to sit against that kappa. It could either drop out or, as in this case, just add a long eta so it's easier to pronounce. Remember those hidden stems that you sometimes have? Like baptizo, okay? So sometimes something will look one way but end up being something else because it had a hidden stem, like a dental stem. Well, that can happen, and so when in that case, when you actually then add the kappa alpha, you actually then end up having, in reality, a delta against it. So that particular consonant will then drop out against the kappa. For you, of course, the only thing that's important is that you will be able to trace back that verb to its lexical entry, so you can figure out what the word means and you can translate it. Okay. So what about the inflections? Let's look at that. The perfect tense is a primary tense, but like with the aorist passive, the perfect active takes secondary active endings. It's not too bad because it's so distinctive. You will always have the reduplication. You will have the kappa alpha. So by the time you've seen that, you can certainly recognize its endings, and it will look something like this. So we say perfect first active indicative because it's a voice suffix, and so we add first or second when it gets to the voice suffix. And there, so we say I have loosed. So it renders it in the present, if you will, in an active form, but gives the kind of completed kind of section feeling. Now we also have a perfect second active, and you feel it coming. We drop the kappa, just like you drop the theta of the theta eta. Okay, so the perfect second active loses the kappa of the kappa alpha active voice suffix. So using the example of grapho, we will reduplicate, right? So it reduplicates by adding gamma epsilon. Why does it do that? It's a double consonant. Well, because the rho is a liquid, right? So it takes that first consonant and reduplicates that. Then we add the kappa alpha, but since it is a second passive, the kappa drops out and you get a resultant form, and we add our ending, right? Perfect second active indicative. You kind of only figure it out by observation. I have written. Okay. So here are some examples of perfect second actives. And what you observe here is reduplication. Alphas at the end, but no kappas. They've dropped out. All right. Then the middle passive for the perfect. That's not too long. It's pretty straightforward. Just your reduplication and your middle passive endings, and they attach to that. Since we don't have the voice suffix, it forms a separate principal part, and it's the fifth principal part. So we just add those endings to it, and you just have to recognize it by its use. It's pretty typical though, because you see the reduplication and you see the endings.